All right, welcome back to Clapier on Radio. I'm glad you're still with us. We have in this next segment a fascinating interview with a young man who was raised right here in Utah, who got away from an environment that many people know of, but few people understand. I'm not going to share his name. I'm not even going to tell you where he's from, but I want you to listen to this interview for three reasons. Number one, you're going to learn about a person who came through this in a pristine way. This is a young man facing life at his 20s who is a blank slate. He is untouched by the world, and it's fascinating to listen to his experience. Number two, in light of the lack of education that you're going to hear him talk about, he has learned some dramatically important things that reflect into our lives. And number three, there's a parallel between what's happening in our country and what he experienced as he went through what was a very tyrannical experience and was able to lift himself out of that. And as we face the future with the next few years before us, and we have some challenges, there's a parallel that I hope I can draw successfully for you, because it's absolutely amazing to listen to what he went through, what we are going through and may well be about to go through, and what the key is that draws us forward and out of adversity and challenging times. I want you to enjoy this. The first question I put to him had to do with something we all love, electronics. My children love gadgetry. I asked him, did you grow up with electronics?
I didn't, and towards the end they started really taking that away, along with the toys. They didn't want internet, and they didn't want newspapers in the community, and they didn't want the children to have toys.
Why?
Well, it's a lot like a brainwash, so to speak, because that's really what it was. And if you take that away and require someone to work, and you require them to get up at 4 in the morning and go to bed at 9 at night, then they're more apt to do what you want them to do. They'll become physically and mentally exhausted.
And that was your schedule?
And that was the schedule.
From how early? What age did you start working?
What age did I start working? I started working at 8. Age 8.
And what kind of work was that?
It was construction, framing houses, interior, your case and base, around the windows and stuff.
Here's a young man taken out of school when he was 8 years old, working 15 hours a day. I had to ask, did you ever get a chance to just play?
We would play, I call it our own style of football, and we didn't have anything. We tried sticking to what we knew of football out here, and we'd play that on gravel sometimes, but we had fun, I mean, when everybody walked away with a few broken ribs, that was fun.
What do you remember that was just outrageously fun?
Outrageously fun. We would compete to see, on these houses we'd compete to see who could frame the fastest, and who would do in our brothers' minds the most scariest thing. And sometimes we'd walk a wall 20 feet tall that wasn't braced and pull layout on that wall.
Now that means that wall's
just standing.
It's just got the
but
base.
It can move. It can fall either way.
And you'd walk it.
And we'd walk that
on
thing
top of it?
on top of that thing.
And balance.
And pull layout. And sometimes it was swaying at the top like 2 feet.
And you were balancing it and yourself, because as it'd go one way, you'd wiggle it back with your weight.
You could wiggle it back with your weight and decide where you could walk on that wall. That's incredible athleticism. Now, here's the question that I asked next. Did you ever challenge anybody, or what happened that you laughed the hardest? And how bad did he get hurt? I remember laughing the hardest about something because we dared this kid to get up on a concrete wall.
Okay.
And there was these big old pump trucks. And they pumped concrete down into the thing. And there was a kid that dared him to put his head, his eye, to look up the tube of that thing and tell him how fast the concrete was coming out of that thing. I remember it just blasted him off the wall. I mean, it just totally threw him off the wall.
How far did he fall?
He fell like 20 feet. And I remember laughing so hard because...
Did he get hurt?
I don't think so. He got up and walked around. But I remember laughing so hard because I had never seen a kid be so willing to do something so stupid, you know. I mean, I knew it was so stupid, but I didn't want to tell him that, you know.
You couldn't hear that big old glob of concrete running down that.
Oh, no, he couldn't. He just looking up that thing waiting for it to tell us how fast it was going down.
And did he ever tell you how fast?
Oh, he did. He told us it wasn't such a good idea to be doing that. And I told him, really? I believe so. It ain't such a good idea to be doing that.
So, that's funny. So even though it was hard, was construction good for you?
I'll say one thing, and that is, it was good for me to get out and learn that way of life, and it was good for us to get out, and it was a good therapy for us. We all learned that, you know, our dads were pretty well the same. Whenever you needed your dad the most, he was never there. And I think that's what those children deal with down there, is they go to find their dad and he's gone. You know, he's never there when they needed him the most.
Did you have holidays?
We didn't.
No Christmas?
No Christmas, no...
Birthdays?
No. We very rarely celebrated that.
What was a Sunday dinner like? Or did you?
We did Sunday dinners, and they were really great. Dad would invite all his sons and grandsons and granddaughters over. The only big, like what we'd call a holiday out here, would be my dad's birthday, and it always landed on Thanksgiving.
Wow.
And so we would celebrate that for his birthday.
Now my time with my new Utah friend got really interesting because I said, what are the freedoms that you have learned since you've got away from that lifestyle? What are you experiencing? What do people have? And do we appreciate what we enjoy every day of our lives?
They have the freedom of speech, and they have the freedom to stand up and be heard. And where I came from, in order for you to stand up and be heard, well, you had to light a serious dynamite blast off to get there.
Wow.
And so...
And there was repercussion.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to come down on you for having said
something.
Oh,
yes. For having said something. There was consequences. And so I learned as a kid.
Physical consequences? Movement consequences?
Sometimes it was physical, but towards the end there, they decided that physical wasn't going to get you anywhere, but they mainly abused you mentally, so to speak, and mentally is a lot worse than physical.
Yeah.
But
so you're made is it fair to say you were made to feel low?
Yes, they wanted you to have a low self-esteem and to be unsure with life, because if you're that way, you're so easy to control. And I say that because it's the truth. You know, that's what they wanted you to be. They didn't want you to feel confident in yourself.
How long have you been away from the life?
I've been away from there. This is 8 going on 9 months.
Wow. Now, here's where things get really interesting, and it's exactly what I alluded to when we started listening to this conversation. When you lack confidence in yourself, you are easy to be controlled, and this is why the victim mentality is dangerous, because you are not capable of stepping up and believing in one of the tenets of what created the strength of the United States of America, and that is rugged individualism, belief in self, that we can be the solution. We can take care of the problems that we have. We have to look inward, and what's happening in this interview and what was fascinating to me is here's a young man having this experience, and he's learning these very, very core elemental things. Now, maybe I'm reading too much into this, and if you think I am, you call me and let's have a conversation. But I don't think I am, because this young man is pristine. He is untouched, and the only thing going on, He's not well read, but he's very intelligent, and he's acting upon his own soul, and he's acting upon what he thinks and what he feels, and the instincts are correct, and they are the instincts of the yearning of the soul to stand free and to shed oppression and to shed tyranny and to recognize that it's wrong and it doesn't have to take place. And he was able to change that when he stood up and said, "That's enough." Fascinating. Let's continue.
I remembered after I decided to stand up and change my life, the church leaders down there would turn and say the world was a terrible place, and that if you went out into the world, you would be damned and go to hell. And become a son of perdition. And that's their way of threatening you. And it was all these threats. And that's what I noticed it was a pattern of threats. And so one day I thought, you know what? I don't think what they're saying is true. And so I was watching, we was working on a job in a town, and I watched as these kids would get up and go to school. You'd watch the house, you'd watch the kids run in and out of the house in a hustle and a bustle and getting ready to go to school. Some of them were your exact same age. And then you'd watch the parents come out and see their kids off to school. And I think that's where I realized in my life that was what I was lacking in my life. My parents didn't have the guts to stand up and fight for their kids.
Wow. Could it really be that simple? Parents, stand up for yourselves. Stand up for your relationships. Stand up for your children. You're listening to Clape on Radio. This is AM 860, and we'll be right back.